This is the trade banger of the week, the deal that's too good, too bad, or just too wild not to talk about. If you got a trade that shook up your league, send it our way. It might just be next week's banger. Hey, Austin, what's going on, man?
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Yeah, today is just going to be me, Chad, and Austin, and
Hello.
we're just going to talk about a trade that went through one of our leagues earlier this week, right? This week?
Yeah, and the best part, it's about both the co-hosts that aren't here, so they can't even defend
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah. Well, we have Michael Casper who's never here,
Yeah,
and
true.
then we have Jesse Schneeman who's not here today.
Yeah.
So we'll just say never here. And yeah, the trade was pretty interesting, Austin. It was RJ Harvey was traded for the 109 and the 201. Um, you know, RJ Harvey's values kind of bumped all over the place from last season to where we are currently. But I thought the price was pretty this price point specifically is pretty interesting because we kind of have a rough idea of who might fall in those spots. But you never know, right? So it's a fun time to be trading draft picks. What was your overall thought of the trade when you saw it go through?
Um, so I'm going to give a little preface before I say what I say, and Mike, who is a resident Broncos fan, traded away RJ Harvey, which should tell you all you need to know that if a fan trades away their own team's player, they either got a really good deal or they don't believe in the player. And in this instance, I think they got a really good deal. Um, it feels like a lot for a player who was the lead back re-signed again.
Yeah.
J.K. Dobbins got a 2-year deal if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, I think we all assume the role for Harvey improves. I think he only saw like 30-some% of touches last year, and didn't even get the full workload, fully with Dobbins down. So definitely some question marks on his usage going forward, but I think Harvey for the 109 would have been more where I wanted to be on that. So giving up that, 13th pick in the draft in a tight end premium league feels a little rich.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting situation because Dobbins went down week 11, right? And
Mm-hmm.
Harvey still only during that time frame, Harvey still only had one game where he's in like the 20 plus, actually no games where he's in the 20 plus carry kind of area where you'd expect just a lead back to be, a guy that's taken the majority of the backfield. Granted, Harvey's not that kind of guy. We don't expect him to be. I think even some of the games where he's at like 17, 19, that's I mean, that's great. But he also wasn't ultra productive with it either. Again, that's with Dobbins being down. So, they didn't really have anybody behind the two of them to really play that RJ Harvey role for RJ Harvey, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so that's what's a little concerning for me. Maybe we see him revert back to that, 7, 8 carries a game, which you were happy to see when Dobbins was playing. Do you see that, going up a little bit in year two for Harvey?
I mean, I think that's the hope. As someone who has Harvey, I think you're wanting to see 8 to 12 carries a game, and maybe that 2 to 6 targets a game, depending on game script and how the offense is moving or not moving. And as big a Dobbins fan as I am, we got to be real. It is probably unlikely he plays a full season.
Yeah.
I'm a huge guy, huge fan of him, but at this point, you kind of got to call a spade a spade. And I kind of feel like if you can get Harvey for the late first price and you need a running back, that's the right move to do because it's a relatively younger guy. He is already 25, but relatively young guy on a rookie contract who's going to get used in what we assume to be a pretty high-powered offense. So with the addition to Waddle, it should make the offense even more potent. And with Sean Payton, you always want the running back. That's kind of how that is. So yeah, I mean, I think it should improve, but it's some question marks here and there. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. The one thing that scares me about RJ Harvey is that they re-signed Dobbins.
Yeah.
That's really it. It's not that I know you're pretty high on Dobbins. I think he's a really talented player. I just question his ability to stay healthy, as you mentioned. But the fact that they were so willing to get him in on a tiny contract, not an insignificant deal, shows me that they don't really trust him to be the lead guy yet. We'll see if that, what that looks like going forward. I think a 109, like a first round pick in the 108, 109, 110 area and the 201 just seems like way too much to me. I think the, mid to back end first is kind of what I would expect by itself.
Yeah, I mean,
you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that to me, 109 would be about perfect. And if somebody twisted my arm and I really wanted Harvey as, my RB3 or 4 on a contender, I'd give up my 209, sure. But 201 to 209, that's a big difference. We're the 13th pick. We're going to be pretty excited about, next week when, draft season's coming. So,
Yeah.
It's a big difference between pick 13 and pick 19, or no, excuse me, 20. So, yeah, I mean, it's a lot. But I think if in the group chat, we asked Jesse what the heck he was thinking, and he said he had too many picks in that late first round range after last week discussed that, you need to kind of move off of picks, don't have too many. And he said he did. So it was literally the next day.
Well, I wasn't saying give them away. I was just like, if you can help it and you can, diversify into other years, that might be a good idea. But I appreciate him taking the advice to heart.
Yeah, I would have liked to. I think something that made me feel better would with Harvey getting a 27-second back, maybe.
Yeah.
This guy, the other person would then receive the 109 and 201 this year, and then you're getting a random second with this running back. I think that would have made me feel a lot better about the trade.
Yeah, I don't hate that idea either. And this is not saying RJ Harvey can't be worth this deal come the season, but I just think the question marks are significant enough to really tamper expectations going into the year. The interesting thing for me is going to be if a second running back doesn't go where we think they're going to go in the draft, right? Like let's say Jadarian Price does slide. I think it's very, very unlikely, but let's say he goes in like the middle of the third round or something, right? And it's really just Love. Does that change things for you a little bit, or does that make you more likely to do a deal like this?
It definitely
overpay a little bit for a running back?
It definitely makes non-rookie running backs more valuable, absolutely. And I would even go as far to say if another, at least one, which ideally two, but at least one doesn't go in the top 50. I wouldn't even say round 3. If they're not, if one more doesn't go in that top half of round 2, it's going to show enough that the NFL does not like this class and views everybody outside of Jeremiah Love, quote unquote, in the same tier. Obviously there will be different runs and stuff, but the NFL speaks loud enough when they don't spend valuable picks on positions and players. We have to listen. So yeah, it would absolutely make me more swayed on spending up on these non-rookie guys, especially a younger, quote unquote rookie. It is crazy. Dobbins and Harvey are less than 2 years apart in age. So I was looking at Dobbins' contract. It's a 2 year, $16 million is what he signed, but it's really a 1 year, $8 million. They can get out after this year for just $2 million dead cap. So that makes you feel a little bit better for the future. But heck, they could be the one that signs, that drafts Price. As crazy as that would be, Dobbins on a 1 year contract. It's not the end of the world that, if they go and draft another guy around 2, 3, or 4, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah, that would be disgusting.
Yes, it would.
I would hate that for everybody involved.
Often,
I know. Yeah, we have can't be shocked by any of this stuff. But yeah, I think it was a really cool trade. I thought Jesse should have probably gotten a little bit more. So Mike wins it for me. What do you say, Austin?
Yeah, go Mike. Like I said, people, if you know who you're dealing with as a manager and you know what fan they are, they're not trading their players away on their team unless they don't believe in them or they're getting too good of a deal. You won't see me move off of Jalen Coker without getting an overpay. It's just how it is. So make sure y'all don't forget that when that comes. When you get trades in from people like that. I remember a guy we both play with. Josh Audis. He was moving off of Matthew Golden in a league or two. Huge Packers fan. And told me all I needed is he was out on him. He doesn't believe in him. He's scared of him. So I offered a late second. He didn't take it, said he wanted an early second. But, that just tells you keep that in the back of your pocket and pay attention.
I like it. Good advice. All right. Well, this has been the Trade Banger of the Week. And if you've got a trade that shook up your league, send it our way. You can reach us at dynfo.official@gmail.com. Again, that's dynfo.official@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the front office. The lights are low, the boards are lit, and the Dynasty clock is ticking. From the heart of the startup draft to the championship throne, one crew rules the long game. Give it up for the undisputed architects of empire.